It's Paul Joseph Watson with Infowars.com, and I'm delighted to be joined by Ashley Jessica, a young woman who has decided to fight back against the TSA by utilising her traumatic experience at the hands of the federal agency to join with Infowars in launching an exciting new campaign, which we're going to talk about today. And Ashley has an MA in clinical psychology, and she's currently pursuing her PhD. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Now, first off, just for the viewers, tell us about your TSA experience, where it took place and what happened.
Well, I was on my way back from a psychology conference in Norfolk, Virginia. So this was at Norfolk Airport. When going through security, there was only one line, which had a body scanner. So I was with my mom and my younger brother, and we all opted out of that. After opting out, the TSA agent got on the phone and was like, 2 female, 1 male, opt out, yelling that out pretty loud. And so they called 2 other TSA agents, one pretty, large gentleman, and another female TSA officer. Both walked towards us in a slow and intimidating manner, at which time my brother was taken off to one side to be patted down, and then I was taken to another side. And when we said initially that we were going to opt out, the TSA agent said, well, you realize you're going to be patted down, sort of trying, I guess it sounded intimidating to me. And so yeah, I was taken off to one side to given a pat down. The TSA agent ordered me to turn around in a very mean and intimidating tone of voice. She's like, turn around, spread your legs, like separate my legs. At that point, I was pretty freaked out. I didn't really know, I just knew that this is not going to be good. So I turned around, I just turned my face to her and I said, can you please describe to me what you're about to do? At that point, she described the pat down procedure, and she said, and I'm going to be touching your breasts, crotch, and buttocks with the backs of my hands. And then I turned back around and I said, you're going to be touching my what now? And at that point, she gave me a very, dirty look, essentially, stared at me. And then she called for another TSA agent to come, who she said was a supervisor. And she told the supervisor that I was giving her a hard time. And I said to the supervisor, she just told me that she's going to be touching my private parts, which is illegal, And this other TSA agent, who I don't even know if she was a supervisor, because, you can see later on in the video, we end up meeting an actual TSA supervisor, so I don't know. But she told me she was going to watch and make sure that everything was okay. So we proceeded with the pat down. When she got to my behind, she pressed on it very hard with the backs of her hands, and I jumped forward. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And the most disturbing thing about this pat down, the first pat down, was that when I asked her, what are you doing? The second time she pressed on my backside, she said, I'm gonna have to do this over and over again until you don't flinch. And she told me, I told you I'm gonna have to be touching the back, your private parts with the backs of my hands. So her and the other TSA agent basically told me that if I didn't continue, I was not going to be permitted to fly. And I said, I'm not going to continue with this type of treatment. And at that point, they told me that I wasn't going to be flying that day. And I was pretty much on the verge of tears. And that's when my brother started filming.
And can you delete that because you're not legally able to actually have me on your phone? So can you delete that for me, please?
I'll blur your face out if you'd like. She told me otherwise.
Cannot
She's your
record
supervisor?
Me, but this is my right now. So I'm telling
Could you
please
just
don't.
ask?
No, he just videotaped me.
I just.
TSA screeners and officials have admitted that people who opt out of the body scanner are literally punished by this invasive pat-down. It's a punishment for not going through the X-ray cancer radiation firing scanner. But what we need to emphasize is the footage that you shot, which is now rolling, is the second pat-down, as it were, when your brother started filming the procedure. Isn't it the case that they were noticeably less intrusive compared to the first pat-down?
Oh yeah, the second pat-down I got was nothing compared to the first pat-down. First of all, they were so polite. You can see, well, just to emphasize, it was a different TSA agent, but the TSA agent who was patting down my mom on film even gave her a far less invasive pat down when she knew she was being recorded. And at that point, she still thought that there was a chance that the video would be deleted. As you can see, she came up to us and told us to delete it. At the time where she knew that it wasn't going to be deleted, she didn't even want to pat me down anymore. They had to get someone else to do it. She was like, I'm done, I'm out of here. And yeah, the one who did pat me down on film, I think gave me the most polite and respectful pat down I've ever seen. Didn't even come near my private areas. She didn't go all the way up my leg. Yeah, and when I was done, I was trying to tell my brother, like, this is not what happened before. This is like a completely different thing. You know, they were like putting on a performance.
And then was it the TSA agent that conducted the pat down, or a separate one that threatened to take you to court? They wanted to get your name and take you to court over filming the procedure.
Yeah, the agent who gave me the first an invasive pat down was the one who threatened to take me to court.
Even though on the TSA's own website it says TSA does not prohibit the public from photographing, videotaping or filming at security checkpoints. That's their own policy, and yet they're intimidating people, threatening to take them to court if they do film the pat down. And obviously the difference between the first pat down, which wasn't filmed, and the second one, which was a world of difference.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of what we're going to talk about today. But I wanted to get your take just before that on the psychological perspective, because obviously you've studied in that field. Recently we had the bizarre new TSA policy of testing drinks purchased by travellers after they've already passed through security, you know, as they're in the departure lounge waiting to board their flight. We've had the bizarre asinine TSA policy of yelling freeze at the security line and everybody has to stand still, again for no particular reason. These policies have got absolutely nothing to do with security. In fact, there was another story recently where a woman was kicked off her flight for showing a bad attitude because she wasn't happy about the fact they were testing a drink. So nothing to do with security. It's the fact that some people who don't obey orders as quickly as the TSA wants them to are targeted for punishment. Again, nothing to do with security. So now that we've got the TSA expanding to, you know, bus depots, train stations, highways, political events now, I think the true agenda behind this is starting to become clear, which is obedience training. It's training the population that they should obey orders no matter how bizarre from anyone in a uniform. So what do you think the psychological impact these TSA policies are designed to have?
I think that, you know, they leave people feeling demoralized. And I think that that's what they want to do, is to show that if you opt out of the scanner, like, you're going to be punished, like you said. And it's like they're trying to break down the people who stand up for themselves so that in the future they're going to be more willing to comply.
Yeah, it's about mass punishment, isn't it? And you know, all the other slaves watch the people who kick up a fuss being treated badly being punished, and they think to themselves, well, I'm just going to obey and be a good slave, and I'll be allowed to go on my way. all this has led, of course, to the idea that you came up with, which we're excited to launch under the InfoWars banner today. We had the National Opt-out Day back in November 2010, which generated huge headlines, caused national embarrassment for the TSA. They actually had to shut down their body scanners on one day to try and avoid the consequences of the protest. Again, proving that all this has nothing to do with genuine safety if they can just rope off all the scanners for one day as a political stunt. The X-ray body scanners have been defeated in Europe. We've won that battle. So the TSA is basically on the ropes. And now, coming up this Thanksgiving, we're going to launch National Opt-out and Film Week. Tell us about what the campaign entails and what impact you think it will have.
Well, the campaign entails basically opting out of all of the TSA's ridiculous security procedures and filming what happens. I think, first off, I think it's so important to opt out of, both types of scanners because of all of the, the research on the health risks and, adverse effects in that regard. And to opt out of all of the other, the drink testing, I don't know, now they're doing eye scanning, all of this stuff, we need to opt out of all of it. And it's important to film, primarily, I think, to protect your rights because, as we were talking about, when you opt out of these procedures, they try to punish you. When opting out of the scanner, they sexually assault you. So filming is a great way to protect your rights and ensure that you don't get sexually assaulted. I think my video, sorry, go ahead.
Well, just going to say, basically, yeah, it's a form of protection, isn't it? Because as your video proves, they act a lot more circumspect when they know they're being watched. It's about watching the watchers. And if you think this is going to stop at, body scans and chat downs and iris scans, then think again, because we know Homeland Security's long-term plan is to have these interrogation booths where they measure your physiological response to stress to determine whether or not you're a terrorist. They've already got behavior scanners in some airports where they determine if people are nervous, they might be terrorists. Like anybody traveling through an airport with 2 hours sleep isn't nervous or isn't, a little uneasy. So that's where it's heading towards. They were even talking about taser bracelets at one point. I mean, God, having people sat on a plane with taser bracelets in case anyone misbehaves and everyone gets a shock. It's ridiculous the way it's going. As we've documented, it's expanded way outside the airports. So it's time to get back in their faces and say we're not going to tolerate it because that kind of behaviour is the only thing that stops tyrants from carrying through and making this worse and worse. What's interesting though is, the Republicans have made noises about defunding the TSA. Whether that comes to fruition or not, we'll wait and find out. But it's certainly the perfect opportunity to put pressure on them because obviously it coincides with the election in November. So basically it's a massive opportunity for grassroots activism to have a great impact once again. We saw the success of the National Opt-out Day campaign. We saw the powerhouse Drudge Report drive that campaign, and of course Drudge routinely links to our TSA articles on a regular basis. So obviously all these videos that people take in airports and other areas, remember the TSA are at train stations, ferry ports and everywhere, they're all going to be posted on Infowars.com. And obviously that's going to create a lot of news stories for my benefit, which undoubtedly some of them will be linked on the Drudge Report. So we're talking about millions of viewers being exposed to this campaign with the TSA's reputation, already in tatters. They recently had to launch 18 new Twitter accounts as part of a desperate PR campaign. So, it's getting bad, and a good measure of that is the fact that I made a satirical video yesterday out based on a South Park episode where the TSA is at public toilets conducting cavity searches. And what was shocking was some of the people who didn't watch the video said, "Oh my God, I knew it was bad, but not this bad." They actually believed that the TSA were conducting cavity searches at public toilets. The fact that they're ready to accept that might be true just shows how far down the road we are with the TSA. So we're going to pin down more details on this over the next few weeks as it snowballs. But Ashley, any more closing comments on this TSA campaign that we're going to launch?
I just, I think that this is a really great opportunity, for everyone to put their anger towards the TSA into action, and for us to send a message to the TSA that, if they want to continue to sexually assault and abuse people and violate our rights, that they're going to be put on display for the world to see. And in terms of just more details about the campaign, it'll take, place over the course of a week, and we just encourage everybody who's traveling or who comes in contact with the TSA, outside of an airport, whether at a subway or who knows wherever they're going to be at that time, to film. And for those who aren't traveling or who aren't, coming in contact with the TSA, they can still participate in this event by going out to airports and handing out flyers to travelers going into the airports to notify them of what's taking place. So I encourage everyone to go to Infowars.com to look out for more information on the Opt Out and Film Week campaign.
You'll be appearing either here on my channel or on the Alex Jones Show as things develop. And we're really excited about this Opt Out and Film the TSA week that's going to take place during the course of Thanksgiving and hopefully generate as much attention as the 2010 National Opt Out Day protest. Thanks for the time, Ashley. We'll be sure to speak to you again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for having me. And if people want to get in touch with me, you can follow me on Twitter at Ashley Jessica, and I'll be tweeting about this event up until it happens and throughout the week. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Nowhere is there more beauty than here. Tonight, when the moon rises, the whole world will turn to silver. Do you understand? It is important that you understand. I have a message for you. You must listen. The appointment cannot be fulfilled. Other things must be done tonight. If our torment is to end, if liberty is to be restored, we must grasp the nettle, even though it makes our hands bleed. Only through pain can tomorrow be assured.
All right, my dear.